All right, let's get started. Welcome. I am so psyched that everyone is here today. My name is Denise Cope, and I'm the president of Affordable Degrees Abroad. All right, it has been wild in the United States this last week, and so I really am thankful that you are showing up for you right at this moment because there is a lot of places your attention could be, and so I'm really grateful that you are showing up for yourself. This is what I promise you, because I really want you to get a lot of value out of this today. And my goal is to inspire you, give you the right information, the right relationships, and make sure you have the tools to move your global life forward. So moving from global dream to global reality. And I know some of you are here today because some of you are global adventurers, and that's why you're here. Many of you are wanting to take your career in a new direction. And I'm so excited about this particular webinar in particular, because almost the entire focus, as you will see, is around industry connections and how to grow your career. In this case, how to grow your career in Ireland, which is the Silicon Valley of Europe. And then I also know there's a number of you that are on this call right now because y'all want to win that $2,000 scholarship. So I'll get to that in a little bit. So I'm really happy you're here. Welcome, everybody. Please get out your phones. There is so much great information you're going to get, and you are going to want to take pictures to be able to record it. I will also be sending you the recording tomorrow, but I think it'll just be easier also for you just to take some pics of some of the slides. So make sure you have that at the ready. All right, Reese, next one. All right, so here are the amazing institutions you're going to hear from today. We've got Dublin City University, Trinity College Dublin, University of Limerick, and University College Dublin. We're looking at the Smurfit Graduate Business School. And 3 of these are in Dublin. One of them is in Limerick. And I also next would like to do a special thanks for Education in Ireland. So Education in Ireland is one that is sponsoring this $2,000 scholarship. And here's how it's going to go down. So after this whole call is done, I will review the roster, see who's on the call, and I will randomly choose somebody, and we'll post it tomorrow on social media, both through Affordable Degrees Abroad and Education in Ireland. I will also be reaching out via email. So good luck to all of you. And thank you again for Education in Ireland. All right, I want to check out who's in the Zoom room right now. And my first question to you is, where have you studied or been abroad? I want you to put it in the chat. Make sure it's on everyone as the setting so everyone can see what your answers are. I want to make sure that you know, everybody knows sort of what, where you've been abroad or what you're excited about. All right. Wow, we have somebody who studied abroad in New Zealand. Keep it coming. Ecuador. Oh my God. Ghana, London. Florence, Italy. Oh my gosh. So there's so much out here. Now, if you haven't, don't freak out. This is no judgment. If you haven't, just say, I haven't, but I really want to go to X. Yay, I see a first time studying abroad. That's so awesome. Oh my God. Ghana, Cambodia, Peru, Europe. Yay! This makes me really happy to see. Yeah, look at that. All right, so I'm super excited. Next poll is use the chat feature again, make sure everyone can see. And I want you to answer, what do you want to study? Today is really focused on tech, and that could be anything from computer science to engineering, but it also could be digital marketing, or it could be something in the business world. So put in what you're interested in. And if you don't know, just say explore at this point. I'm just exploring. So let's see. Yeah, look at that. There's a lot of really, really good stuff coming out there. Yay. Exploring. I love it. Well, great. I am so excited. There's like data analytics, digital marketing, business technology. There's so much coming out. All right, everybody's going to be super pleased because you're going to get all of what you're looking for today. Except for theater. Theater won't be on here, unfortunately, Ellen. But there'll be another one later, and theater probably will be. So hang tight. All right, next. Oh, I just want to do a quick intro. Some of you know me, some of you don't know me. My name is Denise Cope. I am the president of Affordable Degrees Abroad. And I want to tell just a really quick story about myself. I have been in higher education for 20 years. And I've been mostly in international education. I've sent 4,000 students abroad. And what I have noticed over these last 20 years is this creeping tuition hike every year, like 2.5%, if not more. And I was thinking to myself, you know, this is just not right. And there are so many awesome, amazing institutions abroad that are more affordable that I really just want to share with US students so they know what their options are. So with that in mind, my mission is to really be a guide for students to sort through all of the choices, because there are a lot of choices when you decide to do a degree abroad. So how do you make a good choice? And my mission is to help you with that. And also, next, my mission is to introduce you to some awesome people. And I've been so lucky in my career to have met so many amazing people from so many different institutions. And I'm happy to be able to share that with you. So today we're going to hear from Patrick from University College Dublin from the Smurfit School, Sarah from Trinity College Dublin, Caroline from Dublin City University, and Neve from University of Limerick. So those are the guests today. Also, we have Sarah, who is part of Education in Ireland, and she's going to also be on the call too. And also a special shout out to Reese for thanking her for all of her help with all the technology on the back end. All right, so here's what we're up to today. We're going to talk about what's the value of doing a master's degree or PhD abroad. Why should you consider this? We're going to do a deep dive into Irish universities, and we're looking at tech and some business programs. And we're going to talk about how FAFSA, 529 plans, GI Bill, and scholarships work. And then we'll transition to making it happen. Are you a good candidate? And what are your next steps? We've reserved 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. But at any point, I want to direct your attention to the bottom of the screen where it says Q&A. That is where you're going to put your questions. So be sure you use your name when you're putting your questions in, and we'll reserve that time at the end. I'm going to prioritize questions I think that are going to have a bigger bang for the buck. If we have time, we'll get to the niche questions, and those extra ones we'll just make sure to follow up with you afterwards. We just want to make sure you get answers to all your questions. All right, next. All right, let's go. So the number one question I get from students is it cheaper to do my degree abroad? And while there is not one pat answer, I will say generally the answer is yes. You can still get good deals in the US, but on average, you're going to look at saving money when you're doing your degree abroad. So to give you a range, it can be anywhere from $0 tuition dollars, which is Norway and Germany, to super duper expensive, which is around 35 to 40,000, and that tends to be more in like Sydney or London. Today with Ireland, we're sort of in the middle of the pack, and we'll get into money a little bit more. The second question I always get is this a real degree? And I will say, hands down, these are high quality degrees. And I think from a US perspective, we are used to US News and World Reports. So I want to sort of reorient you to sort of a global way of validating higher education. So there are these things called QS and Times Higher Education. These are global rankings, and you can see where the foreign institution and where it ranks in the world. And I will say many of these actually rank higher than US institutions. And that's always a surprise, I think, to us. The other thing you have to pay attention to is industry accreditations. And so in this case, because many of you are thinking of business, you're going to look for AACSB or EQUIS. If you're thinking of engineering, you're going to look for a BET. So look for those industry accreditations to let you know, this is a good institution. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but one of the biggest benefits is to develop global skills and your network. I recently had a conversation with the global hiring manager of a very large aerospace company that's based in Denver. And he said he likes to hire students who have done their degrees abroad. Why is that? Because a lot of the work is international. You put on international teams, you do a lot of international traveling, and he wants somebody he can immediately put onto an international project and know that they have the global skills to make it work. So he's specifically looking for people that have a degree abroad. I often also get questions about working overseas. Many students are like, I want to do this. I want to figure out how to work overseas. So one suggestion I have is you start with a graduate program abroad. And then you're going to want to choose a country that has something called a post-study work visa. So what is this? These are visas that allow you, that give you the documentation to work afterwards. And it can be anywhere from 6 months to, excuse me, 3 years. Ireland is 2 years. So it's a great way to get your foot in the door with companies abroad. Next. All right, questions around how to finance your degree come up a lot. And this slide is really geared for students that are US citizens or permanent residents. If you're not, I know there's probably a handful of you that are not US students or permanent residents. If that's the case, please do reach out to the institutions and they can make sure that you're meeting with the right folks and talking about all the right finances. But for US students, this is what you need to be paying attention to. So FAFSA does work abroad. There are 400 international universities that accept FAFSA. This is only for loans. It's unfortunately not for work study, and it's also not for grants. All of the institutions here today will accept FAFSA. And it's just like you would do in the United States, so it's that easy. And 529 college savings plans. Some students and families have this. The good news is that the same institutions that take FAFSA also are eligible for 529 college savings plans. So these are called Title IV schools, and they're all eligible. If you want more information, I've got some blog posts on those two topics, FAFSA and 529 college savings plans, and I do a deeper dive. Also, GI Bill works abroad, and there's something called the Weems database. There's probably around, 500 institutions that are on there that are eligible. The good news is if there's an institution that's not on there that you would like to see if it could be eligible, you can initiate that process, and it's not too difficult. So all the institutions here today also take the GI Bill. So there's lots of ways to make it work. All right, now we're going to do a deeper dive. We're looking at Ireland. What's great about Ireland is it's close to a lot of things. The two cities we're looking at today are Dublin and Limerick. Both of them have airports, and you can fly. It's 70 minutes to Edinburgh, hour 45 to Paris, 90 minutes to London, 2 hours to Barcelona. So you really are in the EU, and it's very easy to get around Europe. And additionally, you've got great public transport in Ireland, and you're able just to travel around Ireland itself. You'll probably notice, do you see the little green area at the top, the light green area? So that's Northern Ireland, and geographically it is on the Isle of Ireland, but politically it is part of the UK. And you've probably heard of Belfast, so Belfast is right up there. Next. All right, why do students choose Ireland? Honestly, like when I talk to students who've studied in Ireland, I'd say one of the #1 reasons has to do with the warm welcome. Just a super friendly place. It's a young country. It has a great student vibe. I think the statistic I heard was it has the youngest population in Europe. And a lot of you today, I really want to draw your attention to it being the tech hub of Europe. And you'll learn there are lots of companies that this is their European headquarters, and the economy's growing there. So there's lots of opportunities. And so as you're looking at programs, you're going to really want to make sure you are able to have a clear pathway to a job. You still have to, do the work and hustle and all of that, but what are the infrastructure to make sure you can get a job afterwards? And take advantage of that 2-year work visa. So some quick facts. Tuition tends to run, this is in US dollars, $15,000 to $25,000 a year. There are a few specialty programs that can be more, but already you've got some savings just when you look at that annual tuition. Cost of living is around $10,000 to $16,000 a year. Dublin is going to be more expensive than Limerick, for example. And let's just raise our hands in the air. This next one makes me so happy. There typically is not a GRE, right? So how exciting is that? I'd say a lot of students, this is a huge drawing point. And additionally, the admissions criteria and application tend to be pretty standard, and it isn't very onerous. Next. So you'll sometimes see the word course, and that usually means program. And just to give you a sense, undergrad programs are typically 3 years. And why is it 3 years? It's because there's no gen ed. And so you can already see the cost savings here. Master's programs typically are 1 year. Now it's a full 12 months and it is like hardcore. So you got to be ready for it, but it's 1 year. So you can already see the cost savings, right? When you start doing the math. PhDs tend to be 3 years, and these are research heavy. And what's great is industry experience is incorporated into a lot of programs in Ireland, and particularly the programs we're going to look at today. You're going to be blown away by how much industry experience there is. Next. All right, Sarah, you're up with exciting news on COVID.
Exciting news on COVID. Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Dart. I work with education in Ireland. And Ireland, like the US, is rolling with COVID and the changes that come along as we move through these kind of crazy times. The most recent update is that you will need a negative PCR COVID test to enter Ireland within 72 hours. The good news is those are getting a lot quicker. I got one the other day and got my results back in about 12 hours. So you'll need that. And once you arrive, it'll be a 5-day restricted movement period, meaning you'll basically be mostly quarantined in a house, hotel room, residence hall, whatever it is. And the universities are really familiar with this process. They've now welcomed students in the fall term and are welcoming students in the spring term. So they're really great at supporting students through this period, making sure that you've got access to food, to laundry, to healthcare, to any of these things. the Irish government and the Irish universities have actually worked all together, both in September and are doing so this month, to provide free transport from the airport for all students to make sure that you're safe throughout that process to get to your on or off campus accommodation. And that's at no cost to you, the students that are arriving. So there, I think we pride ourselves on being very conscientious and very good at taking care of our students who are coming into Ireland. Ireland has also begun rolling out the vaccinations, similar to the US, starting with healthcare workers, with the elderly, with folks with underlying conditions, and so forth. So we're also on that path. And one thing that I think is really important to mention is that if you did happen to come to Ireland and contract COVID, that your healthcare would be covered under the Irish healthcare system. So all of your COVID treatment would be free. So you wouldn't end up racking up some crazy medical bills. And I guess what I would say about COVID is we all know that things change. And so all that we can promise you, I think, is that Ireland is really staying on top of this, and the universities are incredibly committed to welcoming students, to supporting students. And these may not be the entry requirements. This may not be the situation next September or the following September. Things are ever changing, but the one thing that we will promise is that you can always reach out to any of us, to the universities, to Education in Ireland, and we will answer all of your questions and we'll communicate all of this very clearly through your entire process. And with that, let's jump into the universities, and I'll hand it off to Caroline at Dublin City University.
Thanks a million, Sarah. Thanks, Denise, and to Education in Ireland. It's really nice to be here tonight. And my name is Caroline McGee. I'm a Senior International Officer in Dublin City University. Been working in the university now for over 12 years, predominantly in North and South American recruitment for full degree and study abroad recruitment. So I'll kick off now, next slide. So why choose Dublin City University? Well, Dublin City University, it's quite a young university now. We celebrated our 40 years as a university last year. We've become known as the University of Innovation and Enterprise. And that's mainly because DCU were the first to introduce work placements into the curriculum in Ireland. And as a consequence, they've built up really strong relationships with industry and hence the reputation there. So it's really become our tagline. Invent is the commercialization gateway for the university for patents and so forth. And Alpha is a recent addition. It's the 5th campus, in fact, at DCU, and it's our innovation campus. And it's again a campus for innovation companies, to kind of leverage DCU's research, graduate talent, and commercial connections. So just a word on the graduate employment rate. DCU is actually 19th in the world by QS rankings for the graduate employment rate. Now, just to say that we're in the 300 to 500 band on QS, but there's actually 5 strands to that. And believe it or not, DCU came in 19th in the world for graduate employment. So just to explain that, because you may not see it if you go to QS, you'd see 300 to 500. But in the 5, of the 5, there's 4 other indicators: employer reputation, alumni outcomes, partnerships and employers, employer-student connections, and the 5th then is graduate employment rate, and DCU came in at number 19. So we're very proud and pleased about that. And we offer a range of programs and supports with very practical and experiential opportunities built in, as Denise said earlier. And just to say, the programs that I talk about, many of them have, client, assignments, practicums built in, and students would see perhaps working with about maybe 4 or 5 clients during the course of their year. So it's very full on. Very intensive and great applied practical experience. We also have, just to follow on from what Sarah said, in terms of supports, there's a wide range of student supports available at Dublin City University. And, you know, there's counseling as well for students who may, you know, need to avail of that. You know, health centres, everything that you'd want practically at your doorstep. And just to say as well that Dublin City University is the University of the Year for 2021 for the Sunday Times. So I'll move on to the next slide. Thank you. So this is just to show some of the companies that DCU are partnered with and that graduates would find work placements with and have, you know, gone on to actually work with. So as you can see, there's, you know, there's very kind of popular global brands names there, and also some Irish ones in there as well. And of course, the 2-year stay back really helps. So a sample of some of the programs that we have, tech grad programs. We have a master's in computing, specialisms there in artificial intelligence, moving on to engineering, electronic and computer engineering, image processing and analysis, nanotech, advanced data networks, and Internet of Things. And then on the business side, again, as Denise pointed out, the AACSB is very important, and we're also a member of the International Partnerships of Business Schools. The MSc then in digital marketing, very intensive course for digital and mobile technologies, online advertising, social media and web development. There's a practicum in all of these as well as a dissertation. Some of them offer what's called a transition as well, which is a kind of a dissertation cum practicum as well. It's a kind of combination of the two. But the key is that you're getting practical experience and access to all of these really great companies. The MSc in electronic commerce with business. Again, there's a lot of similarities between these here. The new edition there is digital disruption. So obviously the latest kind of digital disruptive technologies. That's the kind of core there now. And so to my last slide, what do the US graduates say? And this is Aileen, and she studied the Masters in Electronic Commerce with Business. And she would strongly urge anyone in the US to look into a degree abroad. She mentions tuition is significantly less, but it doesn't undermine the quality in any way at all. And from her experience, she found the program to be very challenging. In a positive way, because I know that she's working now with a leading global company, and she's staying back now for 2 years and is working in a multinational company here in Dublin. She says a lot of firms are really eager to hire people from the US with relevant experience. And she mentions that the university was a great starting point, and she's made connections here that she believes will last for a long time. So that's Aileen. And I am now going to hand you over to Sarah. And of course, if you do have any questions, Denise will have my details at the end. I'm going to hand you over to Sarah now from Trinity College Dublin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So my name is Sarah Dilworth. I'm one of the North American representatives for Trinity. I'm based in the US, in New York actually, but I have several years of experience living, working, and studying in Ireland. I studied abroad at University of Limerick while I was an undergrad. I did my master's at DCU, which you just heard from, and now I'm representing Trinity. So next on my list, I guess, would be UCD. So Trinity is located in the very city center of Dublin. We have been around for over 400 years, so founded in 1592. So there's a long reputation of academic excellence, but also forward-thinking research. And because of our city center location, students can avail of all of the offerings of Dublin, personal, academic, and of course, professionally. So you see all of these leading multinational corporations, all of the big tech firms, there's a huge startup culture in Dublin as well. So that's all at your doorstep from either our main campus or our new innovation hub that's being built right in Grand Canal Dock, which is now dubbed Silicon Docks. Next slide. So a little bit more about Trinity. We have 28% of our student body is from outside of Ireland. So representing over 100 different countries. It's quite a diverse student body. And just for a little bit of context, we have around 18,000 total students, and then around 6,000 of those are postgraduates. As mentioned before, Dublin's a great city for international students in particular. And just want to quickly mention that Trinity does have, is first in Europe for producing student entrepreneurs. And it's now 6 years in a row. So that's in part to some of our academic programs. And on the next slide, we'll see some of these other programs such as Launchbox, Launchpad, these mentorship programs that all students can avail of. So for more innovation type master's programs, we have a master's in entrepreneurship, business and data analytics, and then of course, our digital marketing strategy, which is quite a popular program I will mention. On the next slide, we have all of our tech masters. So in electronic information engineering, an MSc in computer science. And with that, you would choose one of 4 different pathways to take. Augmented and virtual reality, data science, future network systems, or intelligent systems. And then we also have an MSc in interactive digital media. So one of our graduates, who had a bit of a background, more of a technical background in computer science during her undergraduate career, was really drawn to our interactive digital media program. And she says it's due in part to the interdisciplinary nature of it, the creativity and diversity that you could explore, of topics that you could explore within digital media. She now works for in user experience design for Field Aware. So she's one of those who availed of that 2-year stay back visa option, but that we love to see for our international students choosing to gain that real international work experience before either, maybe remaining in Ireland or returning home or living elsewhere. So if you're interested in learning more about Trinity, feel free to scan this QR code or contact me via email. And now I will turn it over to Niamh from UL.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. So for those of you that had looked at Denise's slide earlier on, I'm the lovely university on the west coast of Ireland. I like to call Limerick the gateway to the wild Atlantic way. It's a fantastic scenery of traditional Ireland all up along the west coast, and we're neighbours with a bit of an ocean between us, which is nice. So I'm from the University of Limerick. I've lived in Limerick for over 13 years now, and I absolutely love it down there. Myself, my brother, my sister all went to study down in Limerick, and we've all ended up living and staying in Limerick. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk a little bit about the city, because it is a little bit different than Dublin, and a lot of people know Dublin because it is our capital, but Limerick is the 3rd largest city in Ireland, and it is the most affordable place to live in Ireland in terms of cities. When you look at it, we're 50% more affordable than Dublin, 25% more affordable than Cork, and 23% more affordable than Galway. So that means that you have a little bit of extra change to be able to get out there and explore more and enjoy a lot of different activities that go on in the city, and also visit other cities. We're very central, so it's easier to get to Dublin, Galway and Cork from Limerick, and also we're close to Shannon International Airport. And the best thing about it is you also, for those surfers or those people that like to go for a swim, it'll be a little bit colder in the Atlantic this side of the world to get into, but you can do it. We've got some amazing beaches, and we do some wonderful festivals. The picture there is actually of our river festival that happens every year, and I know when COVID is over, the city can't wait for it to start back up. It's one of the big ones. I'll go on to the next one, please. So the university then is based about 5 kilometers, 3 miles outside the city centre. So with the campus, we have amazing tech masters available, and we'd be very much kind of like an American style campus. Everything you have and want on campus is there. So you're about 20 minutes walk between the different buildings. So that's just really, really important to know, so that you could be doing something like business analytics, where it's a bit of a mix depending on which avenue you go down, in terms of whether you do the data part of it more so, or whether you do more of the business modules. You could be potentially over in our science building. So you're not leaving, you know, to go across the city, you're actually just popping across campus. So that's really, really important. As you can see there, we have a couple of different ones in both business and software areas, computer science. I won't go too much into them because all the information is up on our website, but it is really important, as Denise said earlier on, to check out the accreditations for each of the different universities. Now we'll go to the next one. So big thing at the University of Limerick is employability, and you're going to get that team, and you probably have already picked up on that team across the whole sector between all of us. All of our institutions will be very, very well involved in graduate employability and making sure that our students are job ready. At the University of Limerick, we have this amazing career centre that hosts one of the biggest career fairs every year. Last year we could actually have it on campus. 2 years ago, we had 160 companies come down and make offers there and then to students for jobs for when they graduated. And a number of our international students got the 2-year stay back visa. The companies that you see, it's only a very, very small handful, are actually located just a few minutes from campus and around the Limerick city area, which is really, really good. I'm going to move on to the next slide, because this kind of gets me a little bit talking more about the university and the experience you'll have down around Limerick. So one of our students, Megan, and she is occupational therapy, technically not tech, but it's a fantastic quote, because I really do feel this about being at UL and being down in Limerick ever since I've moved and started working down there, is that real sense of community and that traditional Irish feel. So I come from a very small village in Ireland, and that community feel was really important to me. So you get that real Irish friendliness, that integration versus the real big city. No offense to Dublin, great city, love it to visit. But if you're like me and you're not a big kind of cosmopolitan city person, Limerick is the place for you. If you love cosmopolitan with that bit of traditional, Dublin's for you. And all of us have our different things that we like. So that's just really important to keep an eye on as well. Supports are really important to us. So we really want to make sure that we look after our students, going from counselling services to doctors to nurses to different events on campus, and just really making sure that you are part of the UL community. So that's me on my 4 minutes. Thanks, guys. I'm going to hand you over to Patrick, but do ask any questions in the Q&A at the end. Patrick, over to you.
Cool. Thanks, Neve. Good evening, everybody. My name is Patrick Smith. I'm the North America representative for University College Dublin, and I'm based in Boston. I'm also a very proud UCD alum. So I studied there, did my master's there, and worked for 2 years over there. So happy to answer any questions from a professional side of things, but also from a student side of things as well. So UCD would be Ireland's largest university. We have around 30,000 students altogether. But I think most importantly, and obviously like you've heard with most of the other universities, we're #1 in Ireland for graduate employability. So that actually looks at both graduate employment rates. So a lot of the courses I'll be talking about tonight have employment rates in the high 90%, but also looks at employer satisfaction. So we really do have sought after grads, both in Ireland as well as those who return to the States. There's also a real entrepreneurial buzz on campus. So we are home to UCD Nova, which is our campus-based startup accelerant. So whether you're interested in fintech or health sciences, that's a really cool opportunity for students, regardless of what you're studying on campus, to get involved and you know, kind of launch your own startup and have some seed money attached to that as well. The Irish University of the Year 2 years in a row from the US News and World Report, and home to over 8,000 international students. So it really is a global campus. But I'm here talking specifically about the Michael Smurfit Graduate Business School. So it's the leading business school in Ireland and one of just a few hundred business schools in the world to have the Triple Crown accreditation. So that's EU, US, and graduate MBA accreditation. So you really can take your degree anywhere you want in the world. It's important to note that the business school is located on a separate campus from the main campus, so around 30 minutes south of Dublin city centre. But I think what you'll find is once you're on campus, there's a really tight-knit community feel. There's around 1,300 students altogether on the business school. And a lot of industry professionals would actually come to do tutorials, seminars, or just participate in some of the networking events we have after class. So we do have a pretty exhaustive suite of programs overall, but kind of the four main ones I want to talk about tonight. The first three in digital marketing, digital innovation, and our business analytics would be probably some of our most popular with US students. And those are all located on the business school campus. But what's really exciting is that we do have a biotech and business program, which is a joint program between the Smart Business School and then the main UCD Belfield campus. So you really do get the best of both worlds in that program. But something that's really unique that's open to all business students would be our Global Leadership Program. And this is a year-long seminar series that really focuses on soft skills, cultural competency, management skills, interview skills, networking skills, and it's open to all programs. So, we really do create strong networks within each cohort, but then this is open up to students from all across the program. So it's a really great way to expand your network. And we've heard a lot of great feedback from employers saying that they really notice a difference in students who have participated in the Global Leadership Program. And there is a really strong volunteer component as well. So if you're looking to give back to the Dublin community while you're studying, I highly recommend applying for this program. So we've talked a lot about access to industry and employability. Picture of the man on top is a man called Martin Shanahan, and he's the CEO of the IDA, which is the agency that's in charge of bringing in all the foreign direct investment into Ireland. And he's actually a SMARTFIT faculty member. So probably the most important man in terms of knowing what's coming next in terms of Irish industry, Irish innovation, and the Irish economic landscape overall. He's always on campus, either doing seminars, doing lectures. So the man who knows what's going to be coming down the line in the economic landscape is always available for students. So I think students are really happy to have that direct access to him on campus. I mentioned UC Nova, so that's our entrepreneurial startup hub. But even after graduation, there's that really strong network, between the SmartFit Business School as well as the UCD as a whole. So there's 80,000 plus SmartFit alumni, large chapters obviously in Dublin, but then also back in the States, New York, Boston, Chicago, San Francisco would be our largest chapters. So just kind of focusing in on one US student in particular, this is Claire, who did our master's in digital marketing, is now working back in New York as a senior marketing manager consulting with Comcast. So like I was talking about before, it really is a transferable degree. You can work in Ireland, you can work in Europe, and then you can also bring it back to the States. Something of note is that she mentions just that access to local industry professionals. So she talks about the tutorials that are given directly in some of these headquarters, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn. You're not just bound to your classroom, you're really out there in the workforce, meeting these professionals as part of your degree overall. And last thing, much like the other universities, a lot of support on campus. So we do have partial academic merit scholarships. And new this year, we're offering diversity scholarships as well. We also have what we call global excellence scholarships that range up to 100% of tuition. So a lot of different options for student support and funding in UCD. And back to Denise.
All right, thank you for everyone. And I should mention to all of you, Neve and Caroline are in Ireland right now, and it is almost 2 in the morning. So a special shout out of thanks to them, because that's very generous of you to stay up so late. So thank you. All right, so is a degree abroad the right fit for you? So there are 4 questions you have to ask yourself. Do you have a clear vision on what you want to study? Do you want to develop your intercultural communication skills and network? Are you a resilient problem solver? And this one's super important because I'd say abroad institutions, they're going to treat you like an adult. And I think compared to the States, it's just different. There's obviously supports over there, as you've learned, but you do have to be a resilient problem solver. And then also, are you a self-motivated learner? So if you've answered yes to these, 3 or 4 of them, this is a green light for you to go full steam ahead. Now, if you have answered yes to 1 or 2, but you still really want to do it, don't fret. There are ways to scaffold skills so we can still make this a reality. I'm happy to be a thought partner on how to do that. Next. All right, so I want to make sure you walk away with really knowing what are your next steps, because some of this can feel really freaking overwhelming. So your next step, if you just have one thing, you need to discover your top 5 programs. Number 1, that's what you have to do. So how are you going to do that? So I suggest you've got this webinar. There are other webinars, 10 webinars. Get as much information as you can. You can search databases. I like study.eu. I also like mastersportal.com. I think these give you some good ideas. I want you to examine rankings and industry accreditations. How are you going to do this? You can look to QS and Times Higher Ed to validate. And then finally, don't do this alone. It's so overwhelming at times. So ask a guide, that can be me. And also you've got all these university contacts. So right now you've got friends in Ireland. And so reach out to the folks that you've met today and ask questions. You will also, after you've got your top 5 programs, you have to also research the entry requirements. Do you meet those entry requirements? You can also talk to the university to confirm. And do you have the experience to be competitive? Some programs will require, I'd say, a bit more industry knowledge. So find out if that is the case. And then finally, look at finances. I want you to do the math. What is the total cost? This includes tuition plus cost of living, and decide, do I need FAFSA? Do I need 529? Do I need GI Bill if I'm eligible? What about private loans? Or do I have enough savings to pull it off? And remember, ask the universities about scholarships. As Patrick mentioned, there are great scholarships that institutions do offer. So make sure you're reaching out and finding out what those are. And I want to make sure you walk away with all of our contact information before we launch into the Q&A. So this is my contact information. I'm Denise. You can send an inquiry to me here about anything about doing a degree abroad. I also offer a free 20-minute discovery call where you can just, brainstorm with me about what's possible. And I also have a graduate guide that you can download, and I sort of just walk you through the basics. That's also found on my website. You got to scroll down a little bit to get there. So that's my information. And then the next slide, I want you to take a shot of this. This is all of the university contacts of everyone that you met today. So we've got Sarah, Neve, Patrick, and Caroline. So make sure you know how to reach out to them. All right, so in the next few minutes, I want you to use the Q&A and pop any questions into the Q&A that you may have. Okay. Good question. All right, so Victor has asked, I'm wondering if about working in Ireland and having a job while studying. So this is not the post-study work visa, but studying while you're a student. Is it possible to have a part-time job or internship studying? Anybody want to jump on that question?
Yeah, I can answer that, Denise. Yeah, students are allowed to work up to 20 hours per week while in full-time study. So non-EU students can work up to 20 hours per week. And there's plenty of part-time work around as well. On campus, certainly around Dublin, Limerick as well, big cities, that, students always pick up part-time work. So absolutely, yeah, 20 hours per week.
And
Yeah, I also noticed a lot of people were putting in the chat that they were interested in marketing and digital marketing. I think that's probably one of the easiest, most accessible jobs in Dublin at the moment, because you can do a lot of freelance work alongside your studies. So if you're still wanting to maybe take some of what you're learning in the classroom and apply it in the professional space, marketing is a really great field to do that in Dublin.
That's a really good point, Patrick, because a few students have actually picked up work as part of their client, you know, kind of project work. For example, in digital marketing, if they're doing, you know, Google advertising or something like that for a particular company. I know of a few students who have come to say that they've been offered part-time work, you know, if they can kind of pick up the job and so on. So, yeah, I mean, particularly in these programs as well, you have access to all of these clients too. So, you know, so it is a good way into securing some sort of part-time work.
Denise, just one extra little add-on for anybody that may have Irish parents or Irish grandparents. It would definitely be worth you getting your Irish passport, because then those international working restrictions don't apply, because you're counted as an Irish citizen when it comes to work-related requirements. Just an extra little added bonus, and also it'll save you €300 on immigration charges.
Yeah, and yeah, I had a friend who did that, and I feel like it took her, I want to say, a year or two to work through all. I mean, there's some paperwork to sort through, but she's thrilled. She's actually in Dublin now. She's been living there for a while, and so it is possible, and I think that's a great idea. Gracie had a question about engineering computer science, and it's so interesting, Gracie, because like, it so much depends on sort of what you're up to in regards to what the best program would be. So what specialty you're looking for, then to be able to direct you. So my suggestion would be do a little reflection on sort of what your end goal is, and then we can work backwards from there. And I'm happy to meet with you, or like I said, you've got everybody's contact information. And so this can also be a deeper dive as well. But I'd say first step is to get super clear on what you're up to. What is your end goal? Let's see, some other questions. Wow. Jennifer's asking about affordable housing for international students.
So I can kick off with that one from Limerick. We have on-campus accommodation available for students for postgraduate. So you'd be living with other postgraduate students. Now, it's not like what you're used to in the United States. All of us in Ireland would have private bedrooms. So it's not the dorm where you're kind of wondering who your roommate's going to be as such, sleeping across from you in the dorm. You get your own private bedroom, and you can opt for en-suites versus non-en-suites, and everything's included in when you get accommodation prices. It'll include like internet and all the different facilities and stuff like that. And then students can also opt to live off campus if they want to. And our accommodation and our student life would all have listings of approved landlords and different areas like that for them. And when it comes to averaging costs, when you convert it across to US dollars, it can be anywhere from $7,000 for the academic year to 12 or 13 or 14, depending on, whether you want to be that budgeted student or whether you want to live in the Ritz kind of student accommodation.
Great, thank you. I want to keep moving. We've got a few other ones here. Anastasia is curious about how far students should start looking for jobs. Anastasia, this also connects to Summer's question. Summer's also asking about work in Ireland. And so for the 2-year work visa, can you extend? So it's sort of on the front end and on the back end. So, I mean, can you guys talk a little bit about when you start, how soon do students start looking for work? And then how many students are you aware that may have transitioned from that 2-year study work visa to a more sort of a different type of work visa that's in Ireland in order to have more permanent residency?
Yeah, I'll start, I guess. I always suggest students to get in touch with our career services as soon as they reach campus, because not only could they help once you graduate, but they can help if you're interested in internships while you're studying. Another good resource to use is your professors, your advisor. They will know and have those industry contacts for you. In terms of actually applying, it really depends on the exact field that you're hoping to work in, and how quickly that turnaround process really happens. And then in terms of the second question, which was if you can stay beyond the 2 years, there are ways to try it depending on your particular circumstances. There's a couple different visa options. If you receive sponsorship from your employer, that's another way that it is possible. But like Neve said, it is the easiest way is to gain that Irish citizenship, get the legal residency, permanent residency right.
Just to add on to that for Sarah, there is a website, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's basically, it lists a load of different areas in Ireland where they count as skill shortages. If your employment falls underneath that skill shortage and your employer is willing to sponsor almost like a work permit, and you have to be earning over a certain threshold of annual salary, it's over 30,000, it's a much easier process to get the work visa in order then to move on to the rankings, to move into what you refer to as permanent resident, becoming a tax resident in Ireland. It roughly takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to become a permanent resident once you get past that initial sponsorship stage with the employer. But that the website, Denise, I can forward to you and you can send out to the students, and it can give you a list of all the different areas. And medtech and technology is always there because we have such a demand for it between the companies. So there's an extra added one.
Great, thanks both of you. We have a few more questions popping up. Whitney, I'm gonna have Patrick answer yours offline because it's specific. But Melissa's asking if partners or spouses are able to secure a working visa to work full-time while they're partners in grad school. Any answers on that you know of in regards to how that would work?
As far as I'm aware, you cannot bring a partner with you on a student visa. That partner would need to secure their own rights and be eligible to live and work in Ireland on their own. If anyone else has any other insight on that, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's exactly what I would have said as well, Sarah. Yeah, they'd be applying within their own right as an individual. Yeah, unless they want to come and study as well.
What about like,
it would only apply to students, obviously, and then everyone else would be, the normal process would apply.
But I mean, can students bring partners or spouses or children over? Is that part of it, or is it really just the student?
No,
I mean, if they wanted to work, they'd have to be eligible. They'd have to apply for a visa to work full time.
Right. Not working.
They could come for 3 months. They could stay for 90 days.
Really? God, that's so shocking. Okay. Well, I know Melissa, so I'll follow up with you separately, Melissa. I have some ideas. So
they can study though as well.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Gosh, there's so many others. We only have time for one more question. So I'm trying to choose this carefully. We have a couple accommodation questions. This is a good question. Emma's asking about in-person classes. I'm assuming, Emma, you're talking about in relationship to COVID, would be my assumption. So do you guys have a sense? I mean, obviously things are fluid, but do you have a sense of what fall could look like at this point? Or at least what you're telling students for a fall term?
We don't, unfortunately. One thing that, has been really, I want to say, highlighted in Ireland is how well the universities have worked as a unit in order to protect the student population, and especially the international population, throughout all of COVID. We have all pretty much followed guidelines from the Department of Education and the Department of Health and from the government. So majority of us are offering hybrid type style classes where it's either completely online, or if you need to be on campus for practical, a lot of engineering, science based, where they need to get in for lab work in order to complete certain parts of their program, are permitted under different restrictions within COVID at a national level. And that's pretty much how a lot of us have been working throughout. It will all vary depending on vaccinations and what stage of the virus we're at in Ireland. The Irish government introduced a 5-level way of kind of outlining to the Irish people what restrictions would be at each different level. So 5 being the worst and 1 being the best. If we manage to get down to level 3 or below, that's where we can start introducing more face-to-face. So for level 3, there is like about a 20%, 30% capacity allowed on campuses, maybe even a little bit more, and 1 then being pretty much back to normal with just following hygiene guidelines. So it really is a case-by-case basis until we know where we're at in September. But I think I can speak on behalf of everyone, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, everyone else on the call, but the Irish universities are working as hard as they can to get back to as much normality as possible for September.
Great.
Yeah, pretty much, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it may change in terms of, they may leverage some of the benefits of what they've kind of experienced over the past year. So some online aspects may be integrated into a hybrid model, but it's very much, you know, in the planning stages at the moment. And obviously, you know, that'll be post-COVID. So yeah, we've just got to wait and see really at the moment.
Well, I want to leave us on a happy note. So we've got one, I'd say, really joyful question in here. So this is our happy question to conclude it. And then if you didn't get your question answered, I will be working with all the institutions. We can come up with the list and I'll send that out to you later. I just want to make sure you get your question answered. But this one is from Aiden sent it. And if you could give a little advice to someone coming in as an international student trying to make new friends, what would you give? Like what's, like how hard is it to make friends in Ireland?
Well, clubs and societies, I mean, number one, you know, and there's international student networks as well. Your classes as well, I mean, for certainly in the postgraduate degrees and undergrad as well, there's so many practical group projects. You have so much access to people, and I can speak on behalf of the universities as well, clubs and societies, everything from A to Z, no matter what you're interested in. If it's not there for you, Students' Union will give you funding to set it up yourself. For example, if you like lacrosse or something like that, and it's not available, you know, you can get funding to set it up. And I'm sure everybody else has some golden nuggets of information as well. But clubs and socks would be my go-to, clubs and societies.
I'd always say just kind of outside of the university, just, you know, in Dublin or Ireland in general, if there's like a US sports team that you follow, wear like a hat or a shirt, because chances are a bunch of Irish people have cousins or, you know, aunts and uncles that live in that city, or they're familiar with it. I'm a big St. Louis Cardinals fan. I had on a Cardinals hat, and I didn't know that Irish people knew what St. Louis was. And all of a sudden walking down Grafton Street and 3 Irish people are like, oh my God, St. Louis. And so they're super familiar with US culture, US sports, and always happy just to kind of chat up a random American walking down the street. So just a little nugget from me.
All right, well, great. And I noticed, Leo, you said make and share cookies. So I think that's always a good rule of thumb. So I want to thank every one of you. I am so pleased, and especially thanks to those. It's 2 in the morning, so thank you so much for staying up with us. We're so appreciative of you. So tomorrow we'll announce the scholarship, and we'll also be sending recording and then some other Q&A stuff. So Thanks so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure, and look forward to the next chat. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Much.
Take care.
Thanks so
Best of
much.
luck.
Thanks a million, everyone.